The National Advisory Council was set up by Nicola Sturgeon, and they were largely her pals, and they told her what she wanted to hear, and then she went away and implemented it. It was this lovely little circle where everybody said what was current, and the women who sit on that National Advisory Council are all the women who betrayed us right at the start. So it's organisations like Engender, which went out of their way to tell women that we were bigots for having issues with this. Going right back to the beginning of all this in about 2017, Engender had promised a meeting to discuss gender recognition reform. And they were inundated by a lot of messages from women who were members saying, we're uncomfortable about this, we have issues about this, we need to have a conversation. And I think when they realised that most of the women they were in contact with were not on side, they cancelled that meeting, and then they put out an extremely patronising podcast with Becky Kaufman of Scottish Trans Alliance and Mridul Wadhwa, who famously headed up Edinburgh Rape Crisis, which was a bit of a pat on the head, silly women, why are you making such a fuss about all of this? So I have absolutely no confidence in that advisory council to lead in any way on this, because already some of those people, including Engender, have put out the most inane statements saying that this is taking feminism back years. I don't know how they're defining feminism, but obviously they're defining it in a way that isn't about women. So I think this is what I mean about governments not learning lessons, because what it looks like is they're just going to fall back on the same paid lobbyists who gave them the same duff advice 7 or 8 years ago.
You mentioned Nicola Sturgeon there, Susan. We've not heard anything from the First Minister who introduced the Gender Recognition Reform Bill at Holyrood as of yet. How do you feel about that?
I think it's moral cowardice. And, you know, this was somebody who put a target on the back of a lot of women, including women in her own party. She said our opinions weren't valid. She said that people were bigots, and what was it? It was something like that there was misogyny, transphobia, and possibly racism in a lot of the opposition to gender recognition reform. She never made any effort to speak to anybody and understand our concerns. She even within her own cabinet, my understanding is that she was dismissive of people who tried to talk to her about this. It was an arrogance, it was a failure of leadership, and it was intellectually very poor. So I think for her now to evade responsibility is the cherry on top of that, really, because if her opinion hasn't changed, if she thinks the Supreme Court got it wrong, fine, stand up and say that. But she's not even doing that. She's just in hiding.